Welcome to this presentation about open collaborations in clinical study evaluations, a way to go. We will start with an example, check out different ways to go, we'll mention typical issues of open source, funding options, and we'll close with a proof of concept introduction. The Pinacate 21 tool, which is used for the CDISC validation checks, is a pretty good example on how open source projects can run. A great toolkit has been developed and used throughout the industry. It quickly became very famous and is now an important standard tool which is strongly recommended to use and, in case of PMDA, even required. As the popularity grew, more user requirements raised and funding has become more and more a topic. An enterprise version has been developed to be able to cope with all the challenges. Nowadays, Pinnacle 21 is a very well-running company. Despite this story of success, there are many critics around this toolkit. But why? The focus on commercializing the enterprise version seems to spoil the open source version, driving it almost into a neglected project. An enterprise version can of course have additional functionality, but missing out some core functionalities or even thinking about removing options from the open version is difficult to handle. Fortunately, at least some important functionality enhancement will be made available in the next community version 3.0, which should be released soon. Pinnacle 21 has a monopoly position here. A complete industry relies on this tool for validation checks. Commercially, it does not make sense to create a product in this area, as a core functionality is available for free in the community version and the investment for something similar would be much too high. Due to the license, a reuse is not possible. And missing competitions always results in issues and critics. So lessons learned. Which are the ways to go forward? First of all, the companies have to decide how open they would like to be. There exist many open collaborations. Most of them are driven by FUSE, which is a community consisting of those colleagues working in clinical study evaluations and related areas. The FUSE provides collaboration platforms for many working groups. One of those is specifically concentrating on standard analysis and code sharing. Unfortunately, the results do not meet the high expectation in this area yet. On the other hand, there are of course close collaborations where something is developed with just a few members. There are small individual projects or large-scale projects like Transcelerate. There are quite often close collaborations where only the members benefit and learn from. Ideally, collaborations should be open to support the complete industry as well as academia. Especially programs, tools and processes should be shared to be able to find the best collaborative solutions which enables transparency and standardization also in the programming area of clinical study evaluations. And this could be handled, for example, through funded open source collaborations. What are the reasons why there are just a few open source programs and projects available? The area of clinical study evaluations is a very specific area with high regulations and long-term players on the market. Typically, large companies have their own solutions available. They do not see a benefit in giving this away. Tools do not need only consist of the programs itself, but also require documentation, training and validation. Who should provide all this required information? Putting just a tool online is likely not sufficient. So looking into the life cycle of tools in this area, in my experiences, less than 10% of the effort is going into the development part. The remaining 90% serves strategy, documentation, validation and provision of training, not to mention the important maintenance when questions arise, updates are required or even bugs appear. There are hardly many people volunteering to perform these 90% for free. Okay, so how can we make open source attractive? A solution could be to create funded open source projects. The question is whether companies see values in funding such projects and whether there are companies or persons who will provide their tools and programs as open source. The most important factor for companies funding open source is the benefit. So what would they gain? Or do they just have to pay so their competitors can get the same solution for free? The more funding companies are supporting a project, the less expensive it will be for each one of them. The main advantage for the funding company would be that they are involved in defining the project scope, content and direction. They are most likely the first testers and will have direct influence on the development. Furthermore, they could even decide which parts will be made available as open source. Not necessarily everything needs to be made available. Extended documentation, training and validation could be kept in the project and available for just the membership. Funders might even agree on a regular membership fee which could be made fixed to ensure further development, availability for updates and questions answering, especially for urgent authority questions, at constant costs. In such a case, competitors and academia could use the programs and tools, but for extended services, they can join through membership. When the programs and tools are made available completely free, so also for commercial content, for example with the MIT license, then other companies could use this work to provide nice user interfaces or combine the solution in their own tools. Such a license would also avoid monopoly solutions. Of course, there's a risk that someone takes the programs and tools and create own services like extended documentation, validation, and so forth. But is it really a risk or just an opportunity? More competition means more solutions to choose from. Actually, this is something we strongly need in our industry. Currently, many areas just have few or even no solutions available. There are many areas where solutions would be required in clinical study evaluations. Starting with a huge project scope would be risky, but a small project could prove how things are working and whether the benefits are worth the costs. So why not starting with a small proof of concept project which has the option to start small and grow huge? It can simply be performed by a consultant which typically has no high costs. I am currently planning such a project for test data generation for ADAM and STTM datasets based on defined metadata. It's a perfect use case as there is an immediate benefit to have such a tool available, but the risk is very low as test data would only be required for non-productive processes. If you are interested, please get in touch with me via info@glacon.eu or check out the webpage with respect to the Open Collaboration Proof of Concept project. Thank you for watching this video and hope to hear from you.